Was it Russell Kirk, I think, at some point that had some pretty harsh words for libertarians?
So Russell Kirk, didn't publish under his own name some of the things that have gotten out there. But yes, he did write a private letter, which someone else published, saying that George H.W. Bush should be hanged on the lawn in front of the White House because of the first Gulf War. The first Gulf War was kind of the symbol of this, we're at the end of the Cold War, and yet the American, sort of military industrial complex is not going to be dismantled. We're not going to become a normal country again. Instead, we're going to become the world's policeman. And you can't really be the kind of republic that, these older conservatives had admired. You can't be a republic and have this imperial design to go out there and remake the whole planet. So Kirk saw someone like George H.W. Bush basically betraying the entire, sort of American and conservative tradition.
Did he not? I thought he had written something against libertarians at some point too.
Well, he had done that as well. And, Kirk, especially earlier on in the 70s and 80s, was very critical of libertarians when they were connected with the counterculture.
Okay.
And Kirk has a very funny line where he says, you know what? Libertarians are just as radical as the old sort of Bolsheviks and the old 19th century anarchists. But you know what? At least those 19th century anarchists knew which sex they were. They knew which gender they were.
Right.
And at the time, for a long time, I thought, well, that's kind of a mean thing to say about libertarians. But to be honest, today, a lot of libertarians would embrace that description. They would say, no, we're proud of actually not being male or female. So Russell Kirk was perhaps descriptive rather than polemical.
Yeah, and to his defense, Murray Rothbard wrote some pretty similar criticisms of the libertarian movement, certainly within the Libertarian Party, during the Paleo Libertarian Alliance when they were putting out the Rothbard-Rockwell report. It's funny, you read those now, and there's a lot of elements where I'm going, he could write this today, basically saying the Libertarian Party and the Beltway Libertarian movement at large is full of kind of lefty, socially left people, for instance, that celebrate a trans parade and stuff like that, rather than getting back to traditional conservative values while also being a
little. Yeah, but remember that, Rothbard is critiquing that. And in fact, not just Rothbard, but this is something that's true of conservatives like Kirk as well. The criticism is not just at the moral level, it's also at the level of the powers within our society. So the fact that corporate America and the fucking CIA, right, they are endorsing transgenderism. That tells you something about, whether transgenderism is a radical movement that is a danger to the power structure. No, it isn't. It is something that at this point has been entirely co-opted, and in fact is now being used as a weapon against, the few institutions that might try to resist centralized power being wielded by basically our oligarchical overlords. So Murray Rothbard understood what had gone wrong with libertarianism because he lived through it. He lived through the counterculture period among libertarians. There's a great story where during the Vietnam era, Rothbard is talking to a small group of libertarians and telling them about the nature of the state. He's telling them about the nature of economics. And some of these libertarians, I forget whether Carl Hess was in the audience of that day or not, but they decide, hey, let's stop listening to this stupid lecture. Let's just go out there and go to a US military base. We'll cut our way through the wire fence. We'll go in there. We'll lie down on the runway and we'll stop the planes from taking off. And Rothbard just thinks this is utterly stupid. What do you actually achieve here? So you go do this, you get arrested, you haven't actually stopped any planes from taking off. And in the meantime, you've shown that you don't actually care about ideas that want to critique power at a deep level, that you just want to go out there and basically make a spectacle out of yourself.